We will share this one.
Just a moment. Just one moment.
If you look at the speaker when they're speaking, that's what you're doing. Just keep this laptop very clear. Laptop faces the speaker, and behind those and every time the speaker they're seeing on these.
Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you for having me. Today I'll be talking about a practical problem facing many Muslim organizations, especially Islamic tech organizations. How do you actually operationalize Islamic values in the daily work of delivery teams? So we're witnessing an exciting moment in Muslim tech. Organizations like the Muslim Tech Manifesto are articulating what Islamic values should mean for technology development. It's a really important advance, and it also affects Islamic fintech organizations, for example. Islamic fintech organizations are multiplying, especially in the UK. We see this with Kestrel and Nestor and many other organizations like that, as well as IFIs in the UK becoming more prominent and established. Muslim developers are asking, what is halal tech, though, and how do we collectively approach this? It's one thing to declare we build technology with Islamic values. It's another to operationalize that on Tuesday afternoon when your agile sprint is behind, your product owner is pressuring their teams, and you're deciding whether to cut corners on accessibility testing to ship your product faster. And this is something that I'm going to talk a bit about today. Now, Islamic finance has sophisticated governance structures. We have Sharia supervisory boards at IFIs, robust compliance frameworks, and high-level ethical commitments. But these structures are rarely penetrate to the operational layer outside of IFIs, and there's this gap. You could call it an implementation gap. So where delivery structures are in place, we need to have something like a Sharia supervisory board to advise on these operational matters as well. A development team deciding whether to cut corners on testing to meet a deadline, a product owner choosing which features to prioritize in their Islamic fintech startup. Do we optimize conversion or user well-being, for instance? A team discussing whether to defer technical debt, meaning debts that they know are in place there, but they need to ship the product faster to get an edge on competition. But such a choice might mean future cost for those who are using the technology. These aren't formally Sharia decisions that go to a compliance board, but they have a profound effect on ethical dimensions, such as justice, stewardship, transparency, amana, trust, and care for stakeholders. The question is, who ensures these everyday values and decisions actively express Islamic values rather than avoiding obvious prohibitions? Who helps Muslim tech organizations move from Muslim tech manifestos to mechanisms that will implement some of the really great values that that project is espousing? So my own journey into this space began with a blog post for my organization, Place-Based Agile, which works with local charities and community organizations, as well as faith-based organizations in the UK. Ideally, it's a new organization. But it's, as one of the blogs that I was working on, I was sort of speculating on how faith-based organizations like Islamic organizations could embed agile practices into how they work in order to further their own goals with the Maqsad al-Sharia and meet this implementation gap. And then I realized that there was this gap that could be filled. And so I'm starting a separate project called Ihsan Agile, which is why I'm here today. And I very much am interested in things like heart-centered design, which is what sort of Peter Gould has talked about in a recent book called The Heart of Design. And this initial exploration into Ihsan Agile, which is what we'll be talking about today, is asking how we can align Agile practice, and I'll talk about Agile in a second, with Islamic values in practical everyday ways. And so in this presentation, I'm proposing a specific organizational role, a person who sits alongside or coincides with roles in delivery teams, especially teams already using Agile, and helps embed ethical God consciousness, Ihsan, into routine workflows. This is about implementation, not theory, and it's about daily practice in Muslim tech companies, for instance, and Islamic fintech startups, not just principles per se. So I'm just going to briefly contextualize what this is. So Ihsan Agile is a free developing framework that overlays Islamic principles into existing Agile ways of working like Scrum, Kanban, or SAFe, or Scaled Agile. It's a system agnostic tool that can be used with any Agile system. It doesn't replace these structures, but it enriches them. Now, Agile is basically a way of working where teams deliver projects in short cycles, getting feedback and adapting as they go, rather than planning everything up front. And it's about delivering value incrementally and continuously improving through regular reflection. Now, the concept of Ihsan Agile comes from the famous hadith of Jibril, meaning to worship Allah as though you see him, and if you cannot see him, then he indeed sees you. This transforms how we understand work, and ethics becomes not a periodic audit, but a continuous presence. Ihsan Agile has three foundational pillars: Nia, intention, clarifying higher purpose behind output metrics, Ihsan, as I mentioned before, and Shura, or consultation, ensuring genuine collective decision-making and cross-functionality, which really works well with Agile teams. From these, 5 core principles are produced to reinforce Agile with Ihsan. One being Ihsan, in this case, as I said, excellence with God consciousness. And in this case, every interaction and delivery is performed with sincerity, transparency, and integrity. In practice, this might result in retrospectives, meetings at the end of an Agile sprint that include moral as well as technical growth, and embed in a definition of done checks for ethical completeness. Second core principle is stewardship. The Quran tells us it is he who has appointed you vice regent on the earth, and in another verse that there's no creature on earth or bird that flies with its wings except that they are communities like you. For new work in software design and tech and fintech, this might mean that our goals must respect the environment, our communities, and long-term impact, not just short-term gains in this life. It means waste must be actively removed from processes, and teams act as caretakers and not exploiters. Not that they are, but it reinforces some of the Islamic values that can be fed into these delivery processes. And what makes Ihsan Agile distinctive is that we don't think about waste just as inefficiency or wasteful labor in the lean sense, but waste takes on a spiritual dimension as well. When we waste resources, we create adverse effects for the environment and for the Ummah. So stewardship in Ihsan Agile means every team sees themselves as Khulafa al-Ard, vice regents responsible before Allah for how we use resources, time, and talents. The third perspective is Shura. So the Quran gives us a beautiful description of the believers in the Surah Al-Ashura. And if you notice that where Shura appears on this list, right between establishing prayer and giving charity, it's placed among the core characteristics of believers. Mutual consultation isn't just good management practice in Islam, but it's an active worship or ibadah. So for teams, this means that decisions are made consultatively, in Ihsan Agile. Empowered, not just with the authority to decide, but responsibility to consult, especially with those affected by our decisions, stakeholders. And sprint planning, for example, isn't just the team and product owner. It includes genuine input from developers, stakeholders, and those who bear the impact of the products we build. We need to ask whose voices are missing from this room, who will be affected by this decision, who has not been heard. And it's not just consensus, it's designed by committee. The fourth of there's two more principles, and then shortly be ending the presentation. But the fourth principle is service, ibadah, and justice. Basically, this transforms how we understand customer centricity. In conventional Agile, we talk about delighting customers, delivering value, meeting user needs. Whereas in Ihsan Agile, we talk about, is our service rooted in compassion and fairness? Are we measuring success by stakeholder uplift, genuine benefit to people, maslaha, not just output or sprint velocity? And justice as well must govern everything adil. Our contracts, our delivery commitments, our negotiations, even our sprint planning. Are we being just to our users, to our team members, to future maintainers of our code? In practice, an Ihsan Agile Facilitator might help create environments where people and teams can thrive, even under pressure. Because when teams are stretched thin or burned out, ethical corners can get cut, and that's when justice gets compromised. And that's why it's important to think about delivery and how we approach these agile fintech companies, for instance. The last principle is tazkiyah, continuous growth and purification. The Quran tells us that the ultimate success, falah, is for the one who purifies oneself and remembers the name of one's guardian Lord and then performs the prayer. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, also told us to take on only as much as you can do of good deeds, for the best of deeds is one which is done consistently, even if it is little. This goes so well with Kanban about work restrictions, limits on work in progress, that I was surprised at how closely it mapped onto certain agile processes and how well this would embed in delivery teams. So growth isn't just about technical skills, but learning a new programming language or mastering a new framework. But growth also includes spiritual and ethical refinement. Are we becoming more just, more compassionate, and more conscious of our impact, even how we deliver our work? Tazkiyah means gradually removing harmful patterns, not through dramatic overhauls, but through steady, consistent progress. Just as the Prophet taught us that consistent small deeds are better than unsustainable bursts. In Ihsan Agile, retrospectives might become spaces for muhasaba, ethical self-reflection. We don't want to ask just what went technically well, but where did we embody Ihsan? Where did we fall short? What habit should we start or stop to align better with our values? Because the goal isn't truly velocity, the goal is falah, true success and true prosperity in this world and the next. So the Ihsan Agile Facilitator is a role I'm proposing to embody Ihsan and to pilot it, as this is a new project. It's a delivery coach whose specific purpose is to embody Ihsan Agile. And this is crucial. The Ihsan Agile Facilitator doesn't replace Agile rules. It overlays or complements them. For instance, in Scrum, the Ihsan Agile Facilitator could work alongside the Scrum Master or coincide with that role. The Scrum Master facilitates the process, removes impediments, coaches the team on Agile practices, whereas the Ihsan Agile Facilitator might add an ethical layer to that, embedding intention, niyyah, and reflection into those same sprint rituals. They could also help the product owner, for example, embed core principles into backlog creation, ordering, and refinement. Organizationally, they could also make room for Ihsan and connected values formally. Now, how it might work in practice is that the Ihsan Agile Facilitator might have 5 core responsibilities: to facilitate NIA check-ins, at planning, to transform retrospectives into reflection, ensure a definition of done includes justice, conduct stakeholder baraka reviews on how the stakeholders are impacted, and ensure that all stakeholders are included. In the questions the IAF could ask across daily stand-up or scrums or at retros or at reviews are: did our work align with our values as Muslims? Did we serve the Ummah with Ihsan? Were decisions made that compromise justice? And how do we filter these out? An example of this might be a Sharia compliant micro lending app for underbanked Muslim communities. On paper, everything is halal: no riba, no qarar, proper documentation. The Sharia board has approved the financial instruments, but the team is operating like any fintech startup. They're focused on speed to market, conversion metrics, user acquisition costs, and engagement rates, all the conventional tech KPIs. Without an IAF, an Islamic Agile Facilitator, product defaults encourage maximum borrowing up to limits, optimizing for transaction value. The user interface makes declining offers difficult. Large green accept buttons, but declining requires multiple screens. Push notifications are timed for moments of financial stress. Need emergency funds? Apply now. The affordability algorithm is generous, prioritizing approval rates over genuine ability to repay. None of this violates Sharia strictly, exactly, in the narrow sense, at first, but it does not embody Ihsan, excellence with God consciousness. Does it serve the public good? Is the team acting as responsible custodians of the public? This is where an IAF would make the difference. At sprint planning, the IAF might ask, who benefits from this? Who might be harmed? How do we know? The question creates space for self-reflection, which is really important. The team could then add clear explanations of obligations in plain language, make declining as easy as accepting, add educational content about financial planning, for example. This is what Muslim tech needs, but we need to test this, however, this sort of framework. We need organizations willing to pilot this IAF rule. So in concluding, I'd like to be direct that the Muslim tech movement is at a critical juncture. We're good at articulating values. We write excellent manifestos such as the Muslim Tech Manifesto and things about heart-centered design. We declare commitments to public justice, transparency, privacy, dignity, stewardship of data, care for vulnerable users, and embody this in our private practices as well. And these are beautiful and necessary, but principles don't conduct sprint planning. And we need to have value statements that don't just reflect pull requests, but are embodied in delivery as well. If you're a Muslim developer at a conventional tech company, you might try to individually embody Islamic values. You push back on patterns where you can. You advocate for accessibility. You care about data privacy. But you might be alone working against organizational momentum with no formal support structure. If you're at a Muslim-founded startup or Islamic fintech, you might have leadership commitment to values. But how do these translate into daily decisions with Agile? Do you just hope people remember to be Islamic about it? This is where an Ihsan Agile Facilitator might become really crucial. It's a structural response to a structural problem. So if you want to get involved, it's a free framework. There's no cost. It's for maslaha. And what I would offer is facilitation, framework adaptation, and ask for 2 to 3 sprints for feedback and openness and participatory development as co-creators. This is a nonprofit project, and it's just starting. So if you want to get involved, please email me here. And if you have any questions, the floor is open. Thank you so much for your attention.